Welcome to another creative writing episode from the content Imagery. To start our day's lesson, let me ask you this question. What senses are associated in each picture? Can you tell me what are the senses associated in each picture? For the first picture, you got it right. It's associated with our sense of smell. For our next picture, that is also correct. It's associated with our sense of sight. For our third picture, you guessed it right. That is sisig, and it is associated with our sense of taste. For our fourth picture, it is associated with our sense of touch. And for the last picture, of course, you got it correct, that it is associated with our sense of hearing. You know, these senses are very important because it creates mood as we experience life through them. But did you know that in literature, these senses are also used by our writers for them to convey a vivid picture as we read these literary texts? So let us know more about them. So once again, imagery is a literary device which appeals to our senses: visual, auditory, olfactory, gustatory, and tactile. Let us discuss them one by one. Visual imagery refers to a literary device where it appeals to our sense of sight. For example, the night was black as ever, but bright stars lit up the sky in beautiful and varied constellations, which were sprinkled across the astronomical landscape. So the writer in that text vividly described that it was a dark night, but even if it is a dark night, there are bright stars, and it creates sprinkles or patterns across the sky. So as you read that text, you can imagine, you can tell, and you can see what the text is all about. That is visual imagery. Our next is the auditory imagery. This refers to the imagery or the use of the sense of hearing. For example, silence was broken by the peal of piano keys as Shannon began practicing her concerto. So for auditory imagery, the writer used silence, that there is nothing that you can hear, but that silence was broken because of the sound of the piano keys. And there, you can vividly hear the sound of piano just by the description of the writer. That is auditory imagery. Our third is olfactory. These appeal to our sense of smell. Example, she smelled the scent of sweet hibiscus wafting through the air. Its tropical smell, a reminder that she was on a vacation in a beautiful place. So the sense there and the tropical smell tells us that the writer wants to convey this a message that deals with our sense of smell, that whenever you would smell the sweet hibiscus or that flower, you can also remember what it is like to be in a beautiful place where you have your vacation. So that is olfactory, or it appeals to your sense of smell. Gustatory is the next one. It appeals to our sense of taste. For example, the candy melted in her mouth, and swirls of bittersweet chocolate and slightly sweet but salty caramel blended together on her tongue. So as you can see in that text, it was described that it was bittersweet and sweet and salty that was blended together on her tongue. So that is your gustatory imagery. It appeals to your sense of taste. It is as if that if you were that reader, you could taste what the writer is describing to you. The next is tactile. So tactile, it appeals to our sense of touch. For example, after the long run, he collapsed in the grass with tired and burning muscles. The grass tickled his skin and sweat cooled on his brow. So here, the tactile refers to appeals to our sense of touch, where it described that maybe it was an athlete who is feeling that tickling sensation from the grass, and that he is also feeling that sweat pouring or maybe cooling down on his brow. So that is the tactile imagery. Once again, these are examples of imagery: visual for the sense of sight, auditory for the sense of hearing, olfactory for the sense of smell, gustatory for the sense of taste, and tactile for our sense of touch. Now, at this point, shall we identify what imagery is used in each item? For number 1, the old man took the handful of dust and sifted it through his fingers. Sifted it through his fingers. What is your answer? That is correct. It is tactile. It appeals to our sense of touch. The fragrance of spring flowers made her joyful. That is correct. It appears to our sense of smell, so it is olfactory because you can smell the fragrance of that flower. There lay refuse heaps on their path that were so smelly that it maddened him or them. So in this case, that is correct. It is also olfactory because the refuse there is really smelly. So it appeals to the sense of smell. Number 4, the beacons of moonlight bathe the room in ethereal light. So here, that is correct. It appeals to our visual sense or our sense of sight. So this used visual imagery. And last one, the burger, aromatic with spices, made his mouth water in anticipation for the first bite. You got it right. That is gustatory. It appeals to our sense of taste. At this point, shall we identify the imagery used in these songs? Let's have the first one.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
What do you think? That is correct. It's visual imagery. How about the next song?
Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories of everything we've been through.
What is your guess? That is correct. It is gustatory imagery. How about the third?
Meron pandalang mga rosas, suot na may maong nakupas, at nariyan pa ang barkada, nakaporma nakabarong, sa awiting daig pa -1 at singalong.
What is the imagery used for that? That is correct. Visual imagery. And our last song?
Look at her and have to smile as we go driving for a while. Her hair blowing in the open window of my car, and as we go I see the lights, watch them glimmer in her eyes in the darkness of the evening.
What imagery is used for that? That is correct. Visual imagery as well. So that ends our episode for today. This is again your teacher, Ma'am Love Intal. See you soon!